Let's go. All right,
Wow.
everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Azizi Podcast. With me today for the second time, Mr. Calvin Cooper. Really excited to talk to you. I know there's been a lot of stuff going on. How are you, sir?
I am doing great. It's really a pleasure to catch up. You were just saying our last conversation was October of last year. It's crazy how time
Yeah.
flies.
Yeah, more than a year ago. And, what a
Mhm.
different world that was in terms of the industry where, everything was in terms of Web3 and crypto. And, the startup world of that was pre-AI, that was pre-ChatGPT, like nothing was happening like that. So, um, things are changing really quickly. So I really wanted to catch up with you and see where you are right now. I've seen a lot of updates on your life on LinkedIn, and I just wanted to kind of check in and ask, what's been going on lately?
Man, the world's been crazy in tech. So a lot of founders, if you got a founder friend, man, you might want to just text them and show them some love, ask them how they're doing. It's been a wild market. Like if you think about where were pre 2022, pre June 2022, we were in a bull market. Times were
Right.
good. There was a lot more liquidity in the market. And so we were in the fun times. And post June 2022 last year, it's been really challenging for a lot of founders out there, a lot of people out there, but especially tech founders and people in real estate. People have had to make a lot of tough decisions.
Absolutely. And last time we spoke, you were spearheading the Rhove project, and we talked a lot about real estate and tokenization. And I just wanted to, I've seen some announcements that were exciting as well, and I just wanted to kind of check in with you about that. Where is the project now, and what's been happening?
Yeah, it might be good to like zoom out a little bit. So for those who didn't get the background in the context in the last conversation, so Calvin Cooper, but most people call me Cooper, especially post this year. And I'm a former VC out of the Midwest, helped raise a $50 million fund, learned from the partners and founders there. Was really fortunate to ride shotgun as we raised fund too, and then help deploy the fund, ultimately leading deals. And just as I was making partner, I quit to found Rhove. And Rhove was a real estate fintech business, really democratizing access for people to invest in and own the places that we live, work, and play. And I really believe in democratizing access to capitalism. I'm a capitalist. It's kind of interesting because my dad was a communist philosophy professor.
Interesting.
But yeah, I am a capitalist, and I believe the solution to capitalism's problems and wealth inequality is more wealth, more capitalism, more participation in the abundance that is produced in our society. And most of that abundance or can be traced back to entrepreneurs, people who saw a vision. And even the founders of America were entrepreneurial. Many of them were entrepreneurs in enterprise, but also they were entrepreneurs in the context of society and how we create a country and how we build a life here. And so, anyway, I love capitalism, and so I was investigating real estate and how do we include more people in the prosperity that comes from real estate development in our cities. And I started Rhove to help give people access. So you can download the Rhove app, invest $1 in a minute. And ultimately, long story short, last year we got qualified by the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission. We launched the app. Things were going well. We had a project called Toker where we demonstrated how you can finance real estate on the blockchain. We run an award from Solana as part of their global Riptide hackathon. We had previously raised $10 million in venture capital from Drive Capital, a multi-billion-dollar platform VC founded by two partners out of Sequoia. So things seemed really well, right? And I was really confident that we were going to close our round. And when interest rates went up, it became really difficult for founders to raise capital. And then if you had anything related to crypto, like we did, um, when when um, when you saw the blowups happening in the market there, right, it became impossible in Q4. And so we had to make a tough decision. We had to sell the business. And ultimately, it was good. Our investors got a great outcome. And not many founders can say they were able to sell at a profit. And then I moved on. I took a break over 9 months, and we could talk about that. And then now I'm back in the market, and so happy to have a conversation around that.
Wow. For those who haven't listened or watched our first discussion, I definitely recommend checking it out on YouTube or any podcast platforms as well. Cooper really kind of dives into his, backstory and how he started and his mentors and all of that. So that was very, very fascinating to listen to. So I definitely recommend that. Cooper, could you please guide me through your kind of thinking? What was going through your head when, the downturn happened and you saw all this news and as you see that as you said, venture capitalists were not looking favorably at crypto startups. How was it for you, like just mentally, emotionally? Like what was going through your head, especially going through this whole process?
It's fucking terrible, man. So like a lot of founders, it looks cool on the outside looking in, but your identity is really tied up in the business, unfortunately, and that's not good. Especially first time founders, you really find it difficult to separate who you are from the business. And you're really trying to not let people down. You don't want to let your co-founders down. You don't want to let some of them are having kids, and you don't want to let them down and their families, and you don't want to let your employees down. You don't want to let investors down who believed in you and backed you. These are human relationships, and so you want to win for them. You don't want to let your customers down, especially when they're now, after 4 years or 5 years in it, you launch a product that people love, and you want to succeed for them. Anybody who's crazy enough to take these leaps to make less money, to work more hours, most people really believe in what they're doing, right? Like some future IPO outcome isn't enough to get you out of bed in the hard times, year after year, day after day. Actually believing in what you're doing, the mission, is not bullshit. When you hear founders talking about why they're doing it, when you hear people like Elon Musk, he tells the same story over and over about why he started SpaceX, why he started Tesla, right? This shit, that's real. And what gets you out of bed is that vision. And sometimes what keeps you on the floor when you're sad is also that fear of letting people down, that fear of not living up to the vision. And in that process, sometimes you can just lose track of who you are. You gain weight, you don't work out, you don't eat right, you don't invest in your friendships and relationships. And that's why a lot of founders, you see, they go through divorces, they go through breakups. I went through a breakup last year after 7 years, the same month that I had to lay everybody off and navigate these waters. And in those moments, you don't know how you're going to figure it out.
Talk to me about that moment when everything was finally finished, right? You put down the final signature, everything is finalized, and you guys exited, and as you said, some of that was successful as well. So, uh, but it was kind of like a conclusion for you in terms of Rove. Um, what was going through your head in terms of like, okay, what do I do now? You've mentioned you took a sabbatical. Like, how did
Yeah.
that come up to you?
Yeah.
Like, what was
Well,
your thinking?
well, yeah. When I was a VC, I actually saw one of my best friends who's a founder go through something similar, and I said, did you believe the story you told a month ago? Like that's probably where the answer is. The answer is yes. So keep going. LLCs are an illusion, right? And that was in my mind, but I think the story really came before that, because there was a time where we didn't know what was going to happen if we were going to find a home, right? Ultimately sold to Rialpha, but that part was hard. And so this is the most important piece of the interview, probably. I so much of our lives are upside down. We're focused on our career first, financial things, and then second, maybe you squeeze in a workout, physical things, right?
Right.
Third, maybe you're working on mental and emotional things. Maybe you're going to therapy, maybe, or sometimes you'll read a book or connect with family, things that make you feel emotionally better. And very last thing is spiritual. And that I knew that if I didn't put my life right side up, and think about things in that way, nothing was going to work out. I would just die. And so I said, when I didn't know what was going to happen, when you're going through a breakup, when you don't know how you're going to get paid next month after not paying yourself a lot for years as a founder because you're betting on stock, when your grandma dies and you go through a breakup at the same time, you just say, F it. I'm just going to focus on spiritual things first. I'm going to meditate every day. I can control that. I can connect to the divine. I'm going to then work on mental things. I'm going to think about life and, trauma and just emotional things that you've gone through and baggage that you have and the inertia of decisions. So much of us we don't decide where we grew up. We don't decide our religious beliefs and philosophies or even our fashion and family and friends often are just inertia, right? Just when do you stop and just say, I'm choosing these beliefs, right? So working on that. And then physical goals, like, I lost 72 pounds. So then, I just organized my day, like meditate, think, journal, mental, physical, go for a run, even if it's a little bit, I came to like running, and then financial things. And so I actually set goals out and then in that order addressed them and then found a great home for Rhove and actually made investors money and then moved on to the next phases of my career now with Groundfloor. Really excited about what they're doing. Happy to talk about that next. But I think the most important thing is that order. It's like spiritual, mental, physical, financial, and setting yourself free.
I think you're completely right, and I'm so sorry about your grandma. I lost my grandma recently as well, so I understand how hard it is. And
My condolences.
Thank you. And just having that pause and having a little bit of self-care, just dedicating more time to yourself, to your mental well-being, to your physical well-being. It's definitely an investment. It's an investment of time. It's an investment of, something where you need to be disciplined, but I feel like it definitely pays off in the long run as well, just for the healthcare purposes. And so, I'm happy to hear that, you kind of transformed yourself through all those things, through these ups and downs and through, these techniques that you were using. And I want to talk to you about, what you're currently up to. But first, a quick question about your 9 month sabbatical in terms of your travels, because you mentioned you traveled the world, and I just wanted to hear like what is like I would say like the two things that you kind of got out of those, trips that you've done, like something that you're like, okay, like I'm glad I did it because this and that.
Yeah, I went to Brazil and spent time in Rio for a week, then about a month in Florianopolis, which was absolutely dream. And then I went to Paris initially for a month, but ended up being there for 3 months. And I think it's really cool to be in another country where you don't know anybody, where you don't speak the language, and you're just a person, right? And so navigating that kind of like how an immigrant might feel is kind of interesting. Like, and what was my main takeaway from that? It's just that no matter where I went in the world, people were very much similar. We have so much more in common
Interesting.
than different, right? And I felt like I could be happy like almost anywhere. I could have been happy, and I thought, why even go back? Why get into tech? I could just make less money and just have a decent life here, enjoying, Brazil or something like. So I asked myself a lot of questions, and I actually decided to come back in the mix because I have a purpose and some things to do long term. But it taught me that it's important to just be with yourself sometimes. And I got a tattoo. It's from Project 369, and I wrote it in Egyptian numerals, but it's really to remind myself as a
Uh-huh.
totem, like as you come back into this work, not to lose yourself again, and to think about yourself just as a human being, that person, Cooper, who was in Brazil with nothing.
That's so interesting, and I'm just curious, like you got back to the United States, and I feel like you were rejuvenated. You've realized some things. How did and what did you do after that? Like you're currently very busy, and I'm just wondering, like, how did you like get into things that you're into right now? Like, what happened after you came back to the United States?
Well, okay. So now I'll get back and I'm like finishing out my physical goals, right? So I'm like running every day, working out in the gym. I hit that goal. Then I was like, all right, now I got to figure out finances. I'm enjoying living in New York and in Miami. And I can't afford, that's not sustainable if I don't figure it out. Like, so I'm like, all right, I gotta figure this out now. I've hit physical goals. So over the next 30 days, I'm just gonna reach out to my network, and I approached it how I've done fundraising in the past. I've never once not raised money, uh, unless there was a black swan event, right? And even then, if I'm losing, I'm winning. And so,
There you go.
if and it comes from just endurance, and you got to be willing to be told no 100 times. So I basically did the same kind of process with BizDev, 100 names on the list, reach out to friends every day for 4 months. So it's
So
like,
you're reaching out to them. What do you tell them? Like, hey, like I'm reaching out because I'm looking for opportunities. Like, what was your like copy,
yeah,
basically?
yeah, yeah. Well, life is in your habits, right? This is a good book. Atomic Habits is one of them. So every day you wake up, meditate, wake up, work out. Even if your workout's small, just do it. If it's a run, run, walk, run, walk. It's not crazy. And then I would be at Equinox. I open up my laptop and I'd go through the list and I'd email people and I'd say, I'm looking to hop back into the world, and here's my experience, and here's my resume. Here's what I can do, and let's hop on a call. And some people will call you back, some don't, and you just start sifting through opportunities, and keeping in mind, like, what are your priorities? What kind of experience do you want? What type of people do you want to work with? Um, and what would make you happy, right? And then also, what are your financial needs? So I think about it even in that order. Like, internally, what's your purpose? Spiritual, mentally, and who do you want to connect with for your peace of mind? And then think about physical place, right? Like that experience, and then financial. But all those things got aligned. So, but in that order. And so that's how I sifted through and approached that. Dozens and dozens and dozens of calls and meetings and interviews, many of that didn't work out. And that was just 30 days. It was on a 30-day sprint. And I connected with a few people. So one opportunity came from Brian. He's the founder of Groundfloor. We connected previously when I was at Rhove. And he's like, got some really cool things going on. I like the team. I like the vision. And this is one of those companies that's not flashy. Like, you don't hear their name in the news. But the deeper I got into the weeds, the more excited I got. I mean, they're based in Atlanta, but they're a real estate fintech business. They're democratizing access to real estate, right? They've done $1 billion in transactions over 10 years. They've got 300 million AUM. They're doing like 15 to 20 million a month with retail investors. They're lending to fix and flippers. So people who are buying single family homes, $100,000 to $300,000 at a time, they're their senior debt. So these are entrepreneurs on the borrower side. These are the small guys, thinking about, how do I go in and own real estate in my community and add value and then build wealth for myself. So they're providing capital to entrepreneurs, like, to get their first properties. This is cool. And then on the other side, they're giving access to the public to invest with, sometimes as little as $1. I'm like, okay, there's some alignment here. And I liked Brian's vision for the future. What's next? And he's like, man, I need somebody who's a founder mindset, because we're doing some innovation things with Groundfloor Labs. We're going to be experimenting with crypto. Today, we have partnerships. We're seeing, okay, let's say what happens when we put new financial products in front of our investor base. First accredited, but it's coming for now. And we've done a few million there, but I need somebody to come in here with a vision and see where we can take that. And then how do we think about the future of our whole company? And I met his team, and they're really good people to work with. I could tell I'd enjoy them, and I love the mission. And I was like, all right, let's make that leap. It was pretty quick, and so I hopped in there and hired some people, and they already had a few people there, and we've grown AUM in that division from 10 million to 17 in 3 months, and growing. We've got a really exciting 2024 ahead, and that's one of the coolest things I'm
Yeah.
working on right now.
And did you say that they want to get in with crypto as well, or they already are? you guys, I guess.
Not there yet, but I mean, this is a lab, and so
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
some R&D going on.
Definitely, definitely. Especially was with, what's happening right now is everything's so quick. So that's one part of the story. And then, you have some additional projects that I would like to hear about because you've been doing some other things as well, I heard.
Yeah, some advisory work. So in that process, when I was reaching out to friends, one of them's Ray Leach, who was heading Jumpstart at the time out of Cleveland, and another was Chris Trinetti, who was a friend. He actually did some work for us at Rhove, and they were like, "Hey, we need an entrepreneur, former VC. We're about to announce this initiative, and we think you'd be awesome to help us think through some strategy and marketing." So ultimately brought me on as an advisor and EIR. So what is this? So IIE.VC, the Initiative for Inclusive Entrepreneurship, was announced by Kamala Harris, our vice president
Oh,
of the
wow.
States.
Okay.
And IIE's goal is to ensure that diverse and emerging fund managers participate in the SSBCI, State Small Business Credit Initiative,
All those
which is a $10
abbreviations.
billion. I know. So it's really a lot to unpack, but essentially the federal government, out of the stimulus recently last year, announced $10 billion going to states, $10 billion to expand access to capital for entrepreneurs at a time where liquidity is drying up. 3 billion of that is being invested into the growth vertical, so into venture capital firms, and the states get to decide how they're going to implement the program. So this is just, some states are just starting to deploy capital, right? So $3 billion going into states, much of that, or $10 billion going to states, 3 billion into venture, right? To help like small and disadvantaged entrepreneurs throughout the country. And some of the funders and philanthropic supporters and the government realize that if nothing is done differently, if we don't take a concerted effort, then what's going to happen is we won't have a lot of diversity on the other side. So IIE's goal across the whole initiative, and then IIE.VC for the growth initiative, is to just ensure that Black and Latino fund managers are aware of this funding, that apply, that they navigate the process. And so basically, we granted funds to several partners like the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center, the National Venture Capital Association, Catalyze, Plexo GPX, Recast Capital. And so many partners working on this effort to make sure that diverse fund managers are aware, that they apply for funding as it's coming out, and that we have a more diverse and inclusive ecosystem on the other side of this. And so that's just incredible work to just be a part of and be able to advise and help.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such an honor. I guess for me, it would be definitely like to be an advisor for something, a noble project like that. For you, like, how did you feel? How are you feeling about this? Because it's not something that you're like cutthroat capitalist, right? You're kind of, it's more of like a giving back situation. It's more of like lifting everyone else, right? And like, do you see yourself like enjoying this? Like, do you see yourself like going further and maybe getting into politics more of the things? Like, it sounds serious. White House initiative?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? Wow, that's amazing.
Well, I'm not ever I don't want to be in politics. But like I would say, I don't view it as really giving back. It is the solution to capitalism is problems is more capitalism. I want more people to get into this world. And people have asked me like, what have been my challenges as somebody who's a Black, gay man in VC? And I'm like, I raised $10 million on a decade of dream. Not to say that there aren't, biases in this market and that the challenges don't exist. Heck, I've experienced more prejudice being from Columbus, Ohio than for anything. When people are like, "Where are you from?" and I'm like, "Columbus," at the time, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, you can't really be doing something serious." That was like a thing. Like I was like, okay, I need to like update my Twitter and say maybe I'm from Miami and people might take me seriously, and they did take me more
Wow.
seriously.
Wow,
That
that's an
so
insight.
prejudice
Wow.
exists,
Hmm.
But prejudice exists not, everywhere, right? For many different reasons. Like if I was Black and I went to Stanford, probably going to have a better opportunity than somebody who's white in a trailer park in West Virginia. That's just the reality of it. So bias exists and it's a problem. And I do think that we need initiatives that just seek to make people aware that programs are available, that we want you in the room, right? Sometimes you gotta just give people an invite. And so what I like about this initiative is that it's not excluding people based on race, but basically it's just inviting people. Hey, you're included. Here are the resources that are available. Please apply. We want you.
And that's so true. And I've realized that thing, where not everyone is going to be taking the initiative and having the first step, right? Because, like, for example, like I used to be upset if my friends wouldn't text me unless I text them first. But then I realized that, some of my friends, for example, they're just, a little bit too shy to kind of show that initiative, and just like, hey, let's throw this party or something like that. So, you know, it's not for everyone to kind of like get that responsibility on them to do the first step. But if you are offering them, extending the invitation, as you said, then like it just works so well because that other party will automatically like kind of like get excited about it and get in 100%. And I feel like that's with everything in life. Like there are different people, and for some people you just want to extend, as you said, an invitation. um
Right. And I'm like when you meet the folks from Treasury or you meet um the some of the people, the state leaders who are implementing the program, like they don't have a background in venture, right? So they're eager to learn and they want this to work and they want to make a difference, right? So these are people just like you and I wake up every day and do their job. Some of them, this is like in addition to what their normal job was, and they're trying to figure it out. And so part of IE's work is advising. So what I find is that assume good intent most of the time from every party, and I think part of our job is just to introduce people, make those connections, and I think especially in the Black community because of the history of when things were even worse back in the day with a lot of overt racism, people don't want to reach out unless invited, understandably because of the history and the culture. But times have changed, and I think it's important that we make people aware of that.
That's beautiful. And this is really, I feel like this is a really, really important work that you're doing for that initiative. And I really, really want to hear more in the future, or at least read about it in the future as well. As I'm really excited about that. Cooper, I just want to come back to Groundfloor for a second and just kind of talk about your day to day right now. You've been in a real estate, democratizing real estate startup before. Now you're at Groundfloor. What are the most important lessons that you've learned from Rhove you can apply to Groundfloor?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a life lesson that life is in the habits. So your habit is, leading a tech development organization is really similar, like agile processes. You have sprint planning. But it all starts with the people. The first thing is you got to have the right people in the right seats, right? Working on the right things, and then create the right habits, like sprint planning, habits. So I'd say that. Some of the most important things related to is move fast and ship things,
You don't say
and
break
put
things
it in
anymore?
front of customers. Yeah, I think you can, but I think it's the bigger insight is why were things breaking, right? So it's move fast and ship things. That's why things break, right? And so it's really like move fast and ship things. And the richest feedback you can get is customer feedback from using a product. And so that's really important. And I think that insight is something that I'm having fun with at Groundfloor, and I'm really excited about 2024. We're gonna have some cool things that we're gonna announce. Um, yeah.
2024 is going to be an exciting year. I definitely feel that as well. Cooper, last question for you, and it's absolutely unrelated to anything. What are the like TV shows that you're watching right now or in the recent past that you really enjoyed, if you like even watching TV shows at all?
Oh man, I've been watching TV shows the past few weeks. I gotta think about that one, man. If you were to ask me book, that would be a little bit easier. um, what TV show, man? That's tough.
Well,
I don't know.
give me your old. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Man, that's a tough one. I don't even know what
How
I'm
about an
watching
all-time
these
favorite?
days. All-time favorite, I love Rick and Morty, man. That's a good go-to. That is
Nice.
a great series. There's so much depth there.
I definitely need to catch up on that. I never watched it, but everyone's talking, like telling me to watch it, so I definitely need to check it out.
Gotta watch Rick and Morty. I love it. Oh yeah, there was a new season out. I did watch that recently. Yes.
That's awesome. Cooper, thanks so much for being on the show. I definitely gonna drop the links to all of the projects that you're working on right now. But if anything, how can people find you and reach out to you?
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Is there's any like maybe like a LinkedIn or website or Instagram that you want to like just to drop kind of like a shout out to that?
Yeah, just follow me on LinkedIn. You can find me, Calvin Cooper, and then check out Groundfloor, groundfloor.com. And if you're interested in um, venture capital, so IIE.VC. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. Cooper, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Hopefully we will do part 3 very soon as well.
Absolutely. Have a good one.